Welcome to Small Towns Unscripted, Mr. Fletcher Ellingson.
Hey,
is in the house.
Good to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yes. How long have we known each other, Fletcher?
Probably close to 20 years.
Yeah. Did I have hair when you knew me at first?
Yeah.
That's a benchmark.
Flowing blonde locks.
I used to blow dry my hair outside my car window going to school in Manson, so that's how you knew, about 80 miles an hour. So.
I told you I heard last time a few months ago when I was in Manson High School, I was looking at all the past students, and there was Russ McClellan. I had to take a picture of it, send it to you. That was a lot of years ago.
My two sisters, my mom and dad, my grandma.
I know, it is fun to walk the halls. Brody always wants me to go point out my picture with him.
Yeah, I'm a tricky guy. I weighed 150 and had a lot of hair, so people are like, wait a minute, what happened to that guy?
Yeah, I have some friends like that too. Like Doug Hoots is like that.
Oh, yeah.
When he was in high school, he was a skinny little kid, and now he's like a big dude with bald head and a beard.
Yep. I have the
like,
salt and
whoa.
pepper, just minus the pepper. I don't know what happened.
A lot of changes in some folks.
And this is Tara Kaylin.
Oh,
I'm Russ
hi.
McClellan. We're getting started. And this is fun, Fletcher. I love ChatGPT. I was telling you before we started, I just learned stuff. And I've known you 20 plus years, right? And that's the idea of this podcast. Get to know each other in the community more than of each other.
Yeah.
That's one of the goals. The other goal is to help create some legacy for people, their kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, grandkids that aren't born yet. I wish I would have had that for my mom and dad. I wish they would have sat down with somebody and for 90 minutes and gone over their life history and kind of got that authentic source of what it was like. So it's important. I think those two things, to help each other in a community and then to have more about your family and your sphere, so there's a record of your authentic conversation. So I appreciate you being here. And we've done a lot of stuff together. I don't know if you know this, Tara. We're on your TV show 2 or 3 times. You were on the radio show I did for 5 years. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, multiple.
I know about all the
podcast
real estate coaching.
Yeah, and then Fletcher's been very instrumental. You opened your coaching, about 6 years?
2015 I started doing it, and then 2017 or at the beginning of 18 I started doing it full time.
Right, so you're a little bit ahead of when we started KW and Wenatchee. And you were very instrumental in changing the lives, not just the business life, but changing the lives of many of the agents. And in fact, you've done a lot of group coaching, and that's kind of what I want to get into. But back to ChatGPT, I want to start from the beginning.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, so you grew up in Centralia.
Yep, Centralia, Washington.
Yeah.
Rain, right in the rain there.
Tell me
it's so beautiful there.
Tell me what it's like growing up in Centralia. What was your family like? What were you like?
So this is interesting because I didn't realize this until just a couple years ago, but I was really a youth at risk, and I did not know that until just a couple years ago.
Wait.
Seriously. I mean, I don't know how I did not end up in jail. I was a rascal. I was a little hoodlum, but I was a kind hoodlum. I was a kid.
You weren't trying to hurt anybody.
I didn't want to hurt anybody, but
you weren't bullying kids.
I wasn't bullying. I was
What were
bullied,
you doing?
But
what were you doing? No one's going to come get you.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
What were you doing?
Some minor vandalism, some minor
So you're lashing out.
lashing out.
Looking for
possibly.
attention?
Looking for attention, definitely.
I was an arsonist when I was a kid.
Oh boy.
Were you?
Yeah, we had some incidents with fire as well.
Campfires,
Shoplifting.
Might have got out of control.
Just
So it's
silly
low-level stuff.
low-level
But naughty.
thug stuff.
But naughty.
Yeah, naughty.
Yeah.
Did you have the bicycle gangs when you grew up?
Oh boy, we had bicycle gangs.
Yeah, we had those
that
here. Was a big deal.
We rode our bicycles miles and miles. I swear, every day. I mean, that was just the thing, right? I mean, there was
There
was a bus, but it didn't travel the routes we traveled. So it was just our BMX bikes, and later we graduated.
Now, what
to
age
10
is
speeds.
this that you're being naughty like this?
Yeah, I mean, elementary school, junior high, high school.
Oh, the whole
Yeah.
way.
I wrote them down one time. I had like 23 incidents where police were involved. Yeah.
Wow. So now, is this because your folks were busy? Were they?
So my dad was sick. Let's see. I think it was in fourth or fifth grade. He came down with leukemia. And so he was in and out of the hospital a lot and spent a lot of time up at the UW. So my mom went back to school when he was diagnosed to become a nurse, and she went through schooling, became a nurse, so she was gone. So, there was usually not anybody home.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a lot of times
Yeah.
it's just that no one's really present.
No
Whatever
one was
the reason.
present, huh?
Not saying your parents were negligent.
No,
just
no, they were great. I had great parents.
There's stuff going on.
But
and
and I ran with my neighbor
you have
friends.
siblings?
And, I had one sister. Yes.
was she naughty?
She took a different path for sure.
Oh.
She became pregnant early, like 17.
Yeah.
Moved out of the house, did that whole thing.
Yes.
So there was
This is,
some
like, probably heartbreaking for your parents a little bit.
Oh, that was devastating for them.
Because I can see my own parent guilt coming to play in this story in my mind that's playing out,
Yeah.
where they have these other things they have to do for this is survival, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then, look at the fallout from all of this.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting
envy
path
that.
for you because so how long did you stay in Centralia before you
I graduated high school
high
there.
school?
And then directly, from there, moved to Seattle, and that's where my world opened up, and I began seeing, whoa, there is a whole different way of living, and I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, for the few people on earth that don't know who you are at this point, because you've coached thousands of people. You're an author, you're a speaker, you do business coaching, mindset coaching at a high level for corporations all around the world.
I mean, he's a husband, he's a father,
husband,
he's a magician. I've seen that.
Yeah, maybe we should put the magician first, because I think did I read, or I have this right, in the beginning that was one of your passions, you were going to go all in?
Yeah, so I was going to be I went to theater school, Cornish College of the Arts, directly after high school. I was going to go into theater, loved that, and then ended up dropping out of that sometime in my sophomore year, and decided I wanted to go travel to Europe with my girlfriend. And so we moved back to Centralia, and my mom let us stay there while we earned money. And
I was just going to ask you, how are you paying for college? How are you paying for this trip? Okay.
Yeah, so we were, I was in a lot of mischief growing up, but the thing that really kept me on the out of jail or kind of safe was entrepreneurialism and my faith.
Yeah.
And
So those were intrinsic to you.
yeah, so I was an entrepreneur since 6th grade, with my first paper out, then my lawn route, then my window washing business. So I always had a business, and that kept me. It helped me develop
This
a
was
sense
the
of
foot on this side of
responsibility.
the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
While you had one on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that was really important. So it gave me a sense of autonomy and just helped me develop a sense of responsibility.
And was faith instilled from your family? Came naturally to you? You participated in Young Life, or what?
Yeah, my mom definitely tried to get me to go to church. I didn't like church, but what I was fascinated was philosophy and theology.
Okay.
And personal development.
It's different. Yeah.
And so I got into personal development in 4th grade.
Is that hand in hand with the entrepreneurial spirit?
It is. I mean, well, if it is, it complements it really well.
Sure.
And so I had this bent towards personal development. I think I was reading Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking in elementary school. I remember my dad came out on the steps, and I was reading a book, and he's like, "Hey, Fletcher, what you reading?" I was like, "The Power of Positive Thinking." And he just kind of stopped, just like, "Wait, by Norman Vincent Peale?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Gosh, you are such an odd kid." But I just ate that stuff up. And
Well, you had a wheelhouse, and
Yeah.
you kind of stuck.
You had to steal the candy
With it.
for the meetings.
Yeah, right.
4th graders, guys got to have some props.
yeah, it was interesting, like all that, that the shoplifting and all that mischief. It gave me perspective in my later years, and
Well, to me, those things are the the kid pushing limits.
Yeah.
Pushing towards the edge, finding that boundary. And when your parents aren't around to set that fence line, you know, you're going to keep pushing it out, potentially.
Yeah. And you tend to behave like the people you hang around with the most, right?
5 people, right?
Yeah.
You were
we
sum
had
total of
a
the
gang
5
called the
closest
Good
people.
Buddies. And the Good Buddies were great buddies, but it was always just like, you know, what's that boundary that we can push?
I
What's
get
that prank that will
100%.
that will just be, you know, legendary?
I'm curious about this. You know,
Yeah.
when the latchkey kids, you know, whether your dad was sick, but most parents were just out working. And, you know, if you're inside during, you know, daylight hours, there was a problem. Like, what the hell's wrong? Like, get outside, go away. There wasn't screen time. And I think capacity, because of that, to handle things in life was greater. And I have a theory that, you're the great guy to ask because you coach all kinds of ages and people from all over the world. Is that theory accurate? Where I think what I see happening in my own business and others is the capacity is diminished. Again, back to the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. So I believe this helicopter parenting, this concept of everybody got a red ribbon, I think maybe it was easier for the kids, but I think it also diminishes capacity because pain is where growth lies. Often lessons live there. So do you see that in people that you coach, like a different mindset if you had to generalize it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the easier or the more comfortable people are, the less resilient they are, the less willing they are to get out of their comfort zone, right? The less vision that they have. Because,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and you went to biblical college.
Yep.
To get a degree in theology.
I did.
Okay, so
you just dabble here. You tried arts. Now we're going to Europe. What did you guys do in Europe? Break up?
As a matter of fact, we did come home early. We actually went over there. To Switzerland. We traveled around, but our goal was to go to this little tiny retreat, a Christian retreat center way up in the hills of Switzerland called La Brie. And we got there. We trekked all this way.
Is this like Holden Village-esque?
Yeah, something very much so. And we got there, and there were no beds. They were like, we're full up for weeks. You know,
Cool.
there was no number to call or no internet or no website, right? So they're just like, sorry. So we had to get creative and
hostels were born.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to get back to the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
You've heard the expression that's been around 1,000 years that tough times make great men make easy times make hard times make, or soft men, and so on. So there's a cycle, right?
Yep.
That's thousands of years old. So is that something when you're coaching that you see in people? Like, so I'm just curious, when you're meeting someone for the first time, and you've done this, we coached together 18 months maybe.
Yeah.
You coached my wife for quite a while, made a big difference. Coached my son, made a huge difference in his life. So when you see someone, is it challenging when you're this, you're not a counselor, I guess, but I think you are. I think you're a motivational counselor, you know, call you Slash, whatever you are, it works. And by the way, the book is called The Practice of Feeling Good.
Yeah.
And that's on Amazon right now. You can get that. So when you first meet someone, how do you gauge what capacity they have in life? Like, because one of the challenges I have right now in business is work ethic. Like, I love this statement. I need a work-life balance. I can't commit to that. I'm like, well, that's cool. Your truck is getting repossessed in the parking lot. So how's that working out? Like, that is so fundamental. I had a person tell me once, I can't work 40 hours a week. I need to watch 6 hours of daytime television to be at peace. I'm like, these things weren't a thing. I don't think so. So when you first meet someone, how do you get to, or what is your mindset like personally when you have to get to a level where you can't just tell them what to do because it's too far out? Like, that's too weird.
Yeah, it's always about getting the client curious. And specifically what we're getting them curious about is what's working. So I don't believe in a work-life balance. I don't believe in balance, period. I really don't. what I do believe in is we want to find out what creates workability for our lives. And that might be putting in 40, 50, 60 hours a week, or it might be much less than that. It's what works for your life. And what works for you, what works for your marriage, what works for your family. The answer to all three of those things are going to be different. And it's not about balancing, it's just really, because at certain points you're going to be putting in much more effort than other times.
I find that word balance to be a little bit like compromise. Like we always have to compromise, but I don't really like compromise because that means both people aren't getting what they want. That's what that equals in my mind. Sometimes it's way more, right? Sometimes you're giving a ton.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe you're receiving it all because you're in the,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you're in the struggle.
Yeah.
So
and that's to the point that we're discussing. It's like what creates workability. And so when I get together with my clients, what I am searching for is what's not working in their life. I'm listening to like what's not working. 'Cause that's what we want to address.
Doesn't that also help you? Because one of the things you told all of us that have met with you, that story you tell yourself is pretty important.
That story is of the utmost importance.
And my son, I remember one call later, he goes, I think I was telling myself the wrong story.
well,
Like it just was like a light bulb for him, and his world changed completely.
People trend towards the what's not working?
Yes, I do. But they trend towards what's not working. They're super practiced at that, myself included. Right? People are practiced at noticing what is not working.
The flaw, the lack,
yes.
the dysfunction.
It's raining. It should be sun shining. Right? I should have more money in the account. That's too expensive.
The shoulds.
All of that is focusing on what's not working, but it's coming from a place of disempowerment, right? And it's habitual. That's a habitual way of thinking. When I work with my clients about what's not working, what we're getting curious about is, and we're deliberately getting curious about is, what is it that is creating a sense of unworkability? Like we're really, instead of pointing the finger and blaming, we're like, where can I take responsibility in my life for it not working? What we're getting curious about is, what am I thinking? What have I been believing that has put me in this position? Because if you're in a position or in a situation that does not feel good, that's not working for your life, the number one question is not how can I get out of this? The number one question first is, what have I been believing that has led me to this particular situation? Because our actions are always determined by our beliefs.
Well, if you're going to ask me specifically, since you're looking at me when you said that,
What?
My answer would be, and I'm curious if other people have this answer, my response to that would be, I was raised to be a good girl. These are the things that equal
You should have met Fletcher as a kid.
being a good girl.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you a good person. That's your value. That's how your, those are your metrics.
Programming.
For your, those are the
I remember when you.
and so I make all my future choices about,
we
is
talk
this
about that,
in,
right?
in line with those ideas?
Yeah, so if you believe that, so what I hear you saying is like, I believe I have to be a good woman. And because I believe that has influenced the actions you take and do take on a daily basis.
Habitually.
Yes.
I think without thinking. At this point, at 50,
Correct, yeah.
maybe I was thinking about it at 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. But I don't think I'm necessarily consciously thinking that now.
Right. So
I'm just doing it.
It's like when before when we were talking about you going to Maui and questioning your life choices.
Yeah.
Right. When we have those moments, if we can also add to the conversation that we're questioning or having in our head is, what have I been believing? If I'm questioning my results in my life right now, it's not about, gosh, why did I do that? It's like, what have I been believing? It is, if anybody wants to like get some quick answers, ask that question and answer it. Because that's going to provide a lot of insight. From there, because people always want to rush to the action. Well, I need to change that behavior.
Give me the quick fix.
You are not going to change that behavior until you ask the next question that's super important.
Oh, geez.
And that is,
Are you writing this down?
Oh, believe me.
if I want that result, which looks very different from the result I'm producing, what would I have to believe about myself and what's possible to produce that result? See, I've already been producing these results, super good at producing these results, habitually producing these results.
Yeah.
Why? What have I been believing? Oh, that tells me why I've been producing this. But what I have to believe to produce that is going to look very different than those beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's when life gets really exciting.
Well, it's that whole asking yourself questions and being honest with yourself that is usually not part of habitual thinking. So just getting to a point where you're willing to say what's going on. Maybe I'm thinking the wrong things, or that step right there, to me, when I've seen you coach my agents and myself and my family, when someone gets to that vulnerable place and starts to go, wow, like it doesn't matter how old you are, you could be 80, 60, 20, 10, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you get vulnerable all of a sudden, and you start feeling it, emotion. It's an emotional experience. I know that humility that comes with that.
Yeah.
It's such a passionate thing and such an emotional place.
And vulnerability is such an awesome topic. I love that topic. Vulnerability, in fact, at any age, you just said, in fact, I just had a person contact me from Leavenworth recently. She's in her 80s.
Yeah.
She said, I saw your TV program and I felt compelled to reach out to you. I'm having this issue in my life.
That's so cute.
Yeah, in her 80s.
Powerful.
And she was like, I got these things I still need to work on. She's like, I never thought I'd be in my 80s and still having to work on myself.
I love this. This is like this reminds me of Carol Oles.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Because she's just a powerhouse. She's a lifelong learner.
She is.
I love that. That's a great way to be. Because I know a lot of people in their 80s who are like, well,
Bitter.
we're just this. I don't know. This is how it is now.
Yeah.
I'm here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Not going to change.
Yeah. Done.
Why?
Yep.
Why bother? Why make new friends? Why whatever?
Now, I'm curious, what have you learned about you
Yeah.
from all these conversations with so many types of people?
Well, let's go back to vulnerability. I learned that I wasn't very vulnerable for a long time.
Yeah.
Had a lot of head knowledge, but I wasn't very vulnerable. So when I realized what vulnerable means, vulnerable means you're open to injury.
Like IQ versus EQ.
Yes, exactly, right? So vulnerable means I am open. If I'm going to be vulnerable with you, that means I'm going to put myself in a position where I could be hurt by you.
And wrong.
And wrong, for sure. Right? So, when we talk about war, for instance, when two countries or two people go to war, you're looking for where they're vulnerable, where they can be injured, where they're open to injury.
Yeah.
And this is such a fascinating thing, too, because it's extremely scary to be vulnerable. That means I'm open to being injured. You are willingly putting yourself in a position where you can be injured. It is so, what's the word?
I call it emotional because it's scary.
Yeah, it's completely emotional, right? But it's counterintuitive.
Yes, it is counterintuitive.
Right? It's counterintuitive.
That's not habitual.
We're
Exactly.
Exactly.
we're naturally protective of ourselves.
Yes, we're naturally protective. But here's the amazing thing. When a person is vulnerable with you, are you more attracted to them or less attracted to them?
Way more.
Way more.
Way more.
We love it when people are vulnerable. We're inclined to trust them when they're vulnerable.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we feel connected when vulnerability is present. And yet, we are trained not to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, fearful.
Right?
Okay, how do I teach my kid to be vulnerable?
That's a great question.
I know. I want him to be the kind of man that somebody wants to be with.
I love that.
I want him to, whether it's a life partner or a parent. He's a parent or a friend or an employee or an employer. I mean, whatever the relationship is, you know, I would love to know that I at least help give him some tools in, you know, helping him to be that kind of man.
Yeah.
Do you feel you're vulnerable?
No. I mean, I can be. But no. There's
That's a
times in
place
my
to
life
start.
where really bad things have happened, and I'm only vulnerable because it's just, you know, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it, you know. Let me spill my guts. This is what life is. But then I think there's other times where I feel like, okay, I'm a single working mom. I got all these bills. I got, you know what I mean? I got to earn. I got to all the things. And so then I feel like I got to really bolster up my armor a little bit because I got to get tough and strong and grind it out, do the things. So
yeah. I think that's so normal also for all of us.
you know, I can't just hang out in vulnerability all the time.
When I asked you a question about what have you learned,
Yeah.
and you went to vulnerability, could you expand on that?
Yeah, because I realized that
About yourself.
Yeah, that I realized that I had a lot of armor up.
To your, you know, point. That's normal, right?
Yeah.
That's very normal.
And you know, and so I also had to ask myself the question, like, oh, how come I don't connect well with people, or how come there's a very small amount of people with whom I feel a deep level of connection? And for years, the answer was like, oh, because they're not doing something, or they're being a certain. No, it was me. Like, I had all this armor up, and I'd be like, take it down, have a conversation, you know, take it down. I was living predominantly from behind all these walls.
And let me tell people, and tell me if I'm wrong. So you got out, you didn't become a pastor. That was one of the things you're going to do.
Correct.
Didn't do that, but you went to that theology school.
Didn't
Yeah.
do magic.
Then you were a magician, but you became part-time magician, which you're great. You've been at
Fun,
a lot of parties
yeah.
with me. And then you went with Chris Raines, and you helped him get Sun Graphics going.
Yep.
I mean, you guys built my first website in like 92 or something, like 95. I don't even remember. A long time ago. And then that turned into Savato.
Yeah.
And then you sold websites and around the country.
Yeah.
And developed that company into a pretty good sized company.
Yeah.
During that developing years of software and websites. And then after that, so you became and all these other things that.
Yeah.
And so when was two questions. If you had your mindset now, back when you started with, I mean, it's a little bit unfair because life experience is kind of always like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish I would have known then what I know now, right? But if you had that business mind or that philosophical mindset about yourself when you were working with the websites, would you have done better in business?
Yeah, I would have done even way better. And we were highly successful and
yeah.
accomplished.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And happier?
That's when I was extremely, I was at the lowest point, one of the lowest points in my life when I first started there.
So is that when you were broke?
I was broke.
Were you married yet? 'Cause
Yeah, I was married to my first wife.
Yep.
We were living out in Manson, in a beautiful area, but we were just lost our business, crashed and burned hard. At that point, you know, we had like $20K in credit card debt, zero income, mortgage, and a family of 5 to feed, and zero
Cool.
savings.
Cool.
And then the divorce, that was in what year?
That was in 2011-ish.
And children?
Yep, we had 3 kids. But that was well after we lost our business.
How long were you married before you got divorced?
I think 18 years. It was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that time where you're at Servato in this early era and building it up through success, grit?
It was.
Is that just like tough, just grinding work?
It was the best. It was so good. It was again just at the beginning of the internet. So a lot of people, there was still a lot of skepticism about the internet. Like, is this thing really going to go? Does a real estate agent really need a website?
Right.
What's a JPG?
What's a JPG? You know,
What is anything?
What's an
I mean,
IDX? I mean, this was
Why do I have to pay a guy pop-up blockers $3,000 a month to keep
Exactly.
the boobies from showing up on the
Exactly.
What is happening here in front of our clients? I'm like, dudes, what are you guys
I
doing?
mean, this was at the very
this was
before you could go online and search for houses.
Way before.
Right?
Way
So
before.
that was one of the core pieces of technology that Savato was bringing to the marketplace, was the ability to search for homes online. This was like revolutionary.
Yeah,
This was disruptive technology.
Crazy.
But so yeah, grit. Yeah, it was just a lot of. It was a lot of being in action, just calling, emailing, walking into places, and I was enjoying it. It was really fun, and it was really key for me because I was getting in front of thousands of people all over the country, speaking and training, and it was there that I had the epiphany that one of our species' superpowers is pattern recognition.
Yes.
Because I would have conversations with this person, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot
You're
of
seeing the
patterns
trends
here. Yes.
You're seeing the trends.
And so and then my clients, we had thousands of clients, and my clients were calling me with one issue, which was a tech issue or a software issue or something, right? But that wasn't actually why they were calling. They were calling because they had gotten something out of the seminar that I did in Alabama. And they heard something there that piqued their interest. And really what they were calling about is like, how can I begin to produce better results in my business? It had nothing to do with the product they were using.
So what I hear you say is you took a step with Chris in this business because you needed something, you had to do something, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I'm going to step this way, I'm going to take this path.
Yeah.
And then that path begets and opens up the doors for the next path.
Totally, yeah. So what I began seeing was patterns of psychology in entrepreneurs and sales professionals, right? And it was just like, boom. And so then I began speaking to that. And and it turned out that I was like, I'm actually coaching. I didn't mean to be a coach in this capacity, but it turned out I was doing that. And so I began implementing more of that into my talks with people. And then I was just, at some point I was like, I just want to do this. Because this is really fun. Because
like this is, I feel passionate.
Yeah,
this is feeding my...
Yeah, because what I noticed was, it was moving the needle in people's lives. And not just around finance, but in their relationships, in their health, in their wealth, right? I mean, it was moving the needle. And then I began interested, like, what does move the needle? What literally moves the needle in our lives? And so I did a deep dive into that, because a lot of people talk about, let's go your values. And then I realized, oh my God, values have nothing to do with it. We all say we value health, and yet we live in a country that's hugely
people eat
unhealthy,
Takis,
right?
you know,
we
and go through the drive-through every day.
I said I valued wealth, but if you looked in my savings account, there was no money there, and I was overdrawn. So my value didn't make the difference. And so I said, what's going on here?
What is going on here?
Well, and the interesting part that you and I have explored and you talk about a lot once you start coaching with them is by recognizing patterns, you can now do that thing called pattern interrupt.
Yes.
Because if you can't see the pattern and you're not conscious of the pattern,
doesn't sound fun.
You're not. Well, it's not fun. It's fun.
Sounds
It's like
semi-painful.
fun, like yoga. Like it's 130 degrees, or, and it's not fun in the moment, but it's fun afterwards.
Oh,
And
so
it's the pain to get the change.
Good.
Yeah, the pain. Yeah, pain. It's pain, but it's not the kind of pain that's gonna make you feel worse. It's like working out. I don't like doing it. I know I'll do it and feel better. I know in the long run I'll feel better.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't recognize the patterns, like that's, and it's funny, you can do a lot of things right from the perspective of that's what you thought you wanted. And then you find yourself.
Yeah, I'm really good at those things.
Most of us are. I remember at a time in my life where we knew each other, but we weren't coaching, but I had more money than I'd ever had. And that's before I lost it all, the second time.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, and yet I was pretty miserable. If somebody would have talked, and if I was honest, got divorced, drank too much, fighting guys in bars at 30 something. Like, what am I doing? Like, money's coming in $200-300 a month. Like, yeah, big money. But so therein lies, I think, and you see it everywhere. You got guys that are worth hundreds of millions jumping off of buildings. Like, and then there's guys that are broke that think that's going to be the cure. If I just had money, if I could just, if I could just get off the ground.
Yeah.
And hey, it's not that, it's not real. I mean, when you can't buy food, it's real.
Right.
And when you get kicked out of your house or lose your car, or, I've been to all those things.
Yeah.
As you have, it's real, but it's exciting for me to watch you from the outside looking in with the people that I've brought into your world, from the real estate game, mainly in my family, and watch them go, whoa. Like, it was so obvious.
Yeah.
Once they see it.
Yeah.
That aha, where it's like, how did I not see this?
Yeah.
And I can, from my personal experience, obviously, I have had to grit and have had a lot of lessons, right? So it's fun to watch you change lives, man. It's like, it's really kind of cool.
We can all acknowledge, if we think about it, how easy it is to point out other people's shit.
Oh yeah, a judge, being judgmental.
I'm a professional at that. I can point it out all day.
So,
let's put that together.
Surprise.
Let's put that together. So, programming.
Yeah.
You were programmed by a dad.
Yep.
Who, like a lot of guys, grew up World War II-ish. This whole lifestyle thing of, you better be a heterosexual.
Yep.
Or else.
Yeah.
You talked to me once that I thought was profound. I don't even know how we got on the subject, but you were like, man, I realized one day I was kind of homophobic.
Yeah.
Like you were? Or he was?
Yeah, I wasn't homophobic, but I was very judgmental.
Judgmental, that's what and your dad, but you started
because my dad, I remember we went to Seattle one day. This was when I was really young. We were down at by the Pike Place Market, where that park is down there, that they just remodeled. But there were two guys, and I remember this because it felt really weird. The comment didn't feel good in my body, but my dad said, "Hey Fletch, look at those two fags over there kissing." And I didn't know what a fag was, and I'd never seen two guys kissing, but he pointed it out as something to diminish,
to
judge.
Discriminate,
to belittle. And what did I do? First thing I did when I got home to my friends, hey, we saw a couple fags kissing up in Seattle.
Right.
I just repeated.
Yeah.
And now here I am forwarding the cycle.
So programming.
Yep, programming.
And then what happened?
And then what happened was when I went to Cornish, right? Cornish College of the Arts.
Yes.
Right?
Whoa, wake up.
A big wake up. And I just remember, like, these people weren't telling me they were gay, anything. They just were just being people. They were just
right.
And it, and obviously it came, and obviously I could say, oh, she's with another woman, like, and it just was like, oh, this is not.
This doesn't feel like I thought, or
Right.
I didn't feel,
Right.
or
This
your
doesn't-
response.
Yeah. It just didn't match up with what I had been taught.
And the part that was intriguing to me, because your dad was a great guy.
He was, yeah.
And I bet if you go one generation before that, probably your dad probably wasn't as harsh or as judgmental as his dad.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was doing the best he could, right?
Yes.
And I like to think that if he was around, he'd be like, have a completely different
Be
attitude.
over that.
Yeah, especially because,
would have moved on.
Yeah, we have queer kids in our family, and
Okay,
and so,
you're not.
like,
Yeah, that usually, and hopefully is kind of a game changer for a lot of people.
Well, and I think that storyline will resonate with everyone in one way or another in every family.
Yeah.
And generational, breaking that cycle of whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I mean, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's abuse, whatever it is, domestic violence. I mean, that's why I think what you're doing at a time in what I see happening in our country, maybe the world, is this concept of mindset coaching. I've talked to you about this. I've said I'm in a system, largest real estate company in the world.
Yep.
57 countries. And I've been intimately involved in some of the Northwest region stuff as an operating partner for 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we spend more time on mindset than tactics?
Yeah.
Because if your mindset's not there, the tactics are irrelevant.
Yes.
You'll never get there. It's like, we know we shouldn't eat that donut. We know we should go work out, but we don't.
Yeah.
So how do I, like, telling me to get an agent to, work 3 hours a day lead generating 5 days a week, calling their sphere, showing them how to do it, the tactics, the scripts. It's like 90% that
Yes.
in training versus 10% of what's going on in their head.
Yes, exactly. And, we talk a lot about mindset. That's a buzzword, mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I like to reverse those words. You have a set mind. It is set.
Yeah.
Like, imagine pouring concrete around this area of your life.
great.
It is so set. Means you're not going to change
That's different. That set's different.
Okay? You're not going to change it. Mindset is a buzzword that we all think, I just changed my mindset. No. It's a set mind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you don't just have one mindset. You have many mindsets. You've got a mindset around sex. You've got a mindset around raising kids. You've got a mindset around business. You've got a mindset around faith. You've got a mindset around how you eat.
Here's one that I feel like, because I know your wife is big on this menopause train that I just entered.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Mindset about that.
Yes.
The world has a mindset about it.
Oh my goodness.
Your peers have a mindset about it. You have a mindset about it. We don't know anything about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Till you're in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like,
and then when you're in
gosh.
it, and then what happens? You suddenly begin questioning the set mind,
Everything.
right?
Everything.
Yeah. So a mindset is a collection of beliefs, decisions, and attitudes that help me make sense of the world around me and of myself. That's what a mindset is. So if I have a mindset around food, for instance, that's a collection of decisions, beliefs, and attitudes that help me make sense around this thing called food, nutrition, health. Okay. So what I've got to get curious about is, does this collection of decisions, beliefs, and attitudes create workability in my life or not? And if it doesn't, then I need to be intentional about creating another set of beliefs, decisions, and
Like,
attitudes.
does it make me feel good? Do I have guilt? Do I have pain? Do
Yeah.
I have whatever?
Yeah.
So your wife is Dr. Amy Ellingson, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have 5 children together.
5, blended family
Blended
of 5.
family,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been married now?
Let's see, we have been together since 2011, and I think we've been married for 9 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you would have had your mindset when you were 25,
Yes.
would this marriage work?
No, it wouldn't.
Would not work.
No.
So,
That's why the first marriage worked.
well, it did. The powerful part of what I've seen you do for people is when you start to change the way they see things.
Yeah.
And they start to recognize their patterns. So they can now start to see, like, I didn't even know I had that pattern. It takes time, doesn't it? It's not like you said, like, change your mindset
Right.
about this and this and this and this.
Right.
That's why it was important to me when I coached with you. Like, I know you have a whole system that we went through, and that's why I was getting so much power out of this. And this is what I was, when I started coaching with you, I was like 50. And I'm just learning. I'm 56 now. So
Yeah.
like, I'm 50 years old, broke a couple times, serial entrepreneur, divorced, raised 10-year-old and 5-year-old every other week with, a great woman, my ex-wife, Grace. We're still very good friends. But so many lessons in that vision that I love when we were coaching. It's just every week was something. We just kind of nail it down a little bit and a little bit. And it will be infinity.
Yeah.
There's no end to this.
There's no end to it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be the perfect one to attest. You've learned so much from so many people as you've taught so many people these ideas. I'm sure you learn a lot from these conversations.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much from my clients.
What are you working on for yourself right now?
I love that question.
It's a great question.
what I'm working on is probably the biggest thing that I'll ever work on, and I'll be working on it for the rest of my life. It's the ultimate, for me, I consider it to be the ultimate spiritual work.
Okay.
And for me, spirituality is learning how to be with life as it unfolds.
That's very Buddhist.
And not resist it.
That's an emotional topic for
Very
you.
Buddhist.
Your eyes just glossed over. Talk to me about that.
All right. So yeah, how are you doing that? What are your?
Well, talk to me about first how that makes you feel, because that's an emotional topic.
Yeah, it's so when I go to Maui, for instance, and I've been there probably like 10 or 11 times now, because after the first time I was like, I was
It
changed.
flips your soul upside down.
Something changed in me, like something moved. And so I go back there now, and I feel like so little resistance when I'm there.
Yes.
I feel so little resistance when I'm at the water's edge.
Yes.
And looking at Molokai and Lanai, and there's so little resistance. There's a lack of judgment. There's a lack of the voices in my head.
See how your hands are even going?
Yeah.
Do you see? I get that.
Namaste.
Like I feel like you're in my body,
Yeah.
speaking out of my mouth,
Yeah.
saying these words when you're talking about that experience.
Yeah, and so, suffering is always preceded by resistance. Okay, you've heard the expression, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. When we suffer, it's always as a result of the resistance that we just were bringing to the situation.
Like expectations.
Unmet expectation is a huge source of resistance. Judgment.
The story.
The ultimate, and the ultimate story that causes resistance is almost always the same, and it's this: you shouldn't be that way.
The shoulds.
Life shouldn't be happening this way.
The shoulds.
He shouldn't have said it.
Shouldn't all over ourselves.
The president shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't. It shouldn't be raining.
Soapboxing.
Ultimately, what we're saying is life should not be occurring this way, which is an incredible and audacious statement that I, Fletcher Ellingson, on a planet of 8 billion plus people, spinning on a tiny little rock in this huge cosmos, I say life should not be occurring this way. I mean, that is audacious.
And you feel more like that when you're home than you do when you're there?
Yeah, because I'm unplugged, right? So
yeah, but is it something else? Because I can go on vacation and be unplugged. I can go to Sihikan and be unplugged.
Oh no, I mean for me, Maui is like there's something magical about.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
The scenery, the temperature,
the vibe, the energy of the whole.
Maybe there's something about that story you're telling yourself that makes Maui that.
Oh, 100%.
Don't ruin it.
For sure. We're always
so for those people that can't go to Maui, there's hope for you.
Yeah, we're always making up stories, right?
So here's the thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
When you're trying, you've heard people that do hallucinogens like ayahuasca, ibogaine, DMT,
microdosing,
mushrooms. They say, especially DMT. I've watched a lot of it because it's very intriguing to me. I mean, they're doing a lot of amazing work now with PTSD and addiction and.
Have you ever done this?
I have never done hallucinogen at all.
Either.
I haven't done that many drugs at all. But what they say when they get out of the experience with DMT, particularly, they have a hard time explaining it, and it makes me think like when we have these deep conversations, you and I, and we'll talk about the difference between an abundant mindset and a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Scarcity is full of suffering. Abundance is full of beauty.
Yeah.
Yet we gravitate towards this linkage between words. And I find it's a philosophical in a way, but as you just mentioned, the spirituality component.
Yeah.
You've done so much work on this. That's a literally tiny amount of work, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To get you to a place where there's an enormous amount of work for infinity. You said it's going to be the rest of your life.
The rest of my life.
As a mortal, it's just going to be this way forever.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. It's free, but it's also like, wow. And I see it when you start working with my clients or my agents. you have to try to articulate what's going on with words.
Yeah.
And words matter.
Words are incredibly important. It's how we create our life.
And especially the words you tell yourself.
Yeah. Everything is created through language. This experience right now with the four of us here couldn't exist without language. Language created this. It created the possibility of this happening. We're always creating. You had an idea to create this store. You created it through language first.
Yeah.
Everything always happens through language.
Intent.
Which is why, for many of us, we look at our lives and we have all these areas where we're dissatisfied, and we're constantly using language to talk about that level of dissatisfaction. We're constantly creating the scarcity. We're constantly creating the ill health. We're constantly creating the disconnection in our relationships. We're constantly creating the blame, the discontentment. How? Through language.
Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah, I have. I mean, if I tell my clients, if you had cameras in our house, you'd think me and my wife were crazy. Because we actually do our affirmations. We do sit
You have
on
like a morning
I'll
routine.
test
you
them.
have a
What's your
sleep
mantra,
routine.
Fletcher? What's your mantra?
I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible. Because if I'm those three things, resourceful, capable, and flexible, there's nothing I can't do. Doesn't mean I have to do it all myself or know how to, but if I'm resourceful, I can bring a team or seek counsel, right? If I'm capable, if I'm flexible, so we have all these different mantras and affirmations, and a lot of people say, oh, affirmations don't work. And I would say to that, we're constantly affirming. That guy's a jackass.
Yep.
Just affirmed it. That's an affirmation. This
Well,
government sucks. That car's, whatever it is.
I never can, blah, blah, blah.
We're constantly
I'm
affirming.
always...
We're extremely practiced at it. We're masterfully practiced at it. So we want to get curious, like, what am I affirming in my life? And bring an intention to that. So my wife and I, we do, like, when we drive down to Wenatchee, we're like, hey, let's do a round of gratitudes. We literally would do a round of gratitudes. We'll take 5 minutes, we'll each do gratitudes, and then it's amazing how good you feel. Why? Because we're literally changing the chemistry in our head and our gut.
One of the first things that you say to people, and you say to me even when we're just getting together for a cup of coffee, hey, before we get talking about whatever we're talking about, Russ, tell me what's working for you.
Yeah.
Tell me where you're winning.
Yeah, what's going well?
And then you go, like, if you want to talk about a pattern interruption, like, wait a minute, I was here to talk about all this other shit.
My 8-year-old son has very negative self-talk. I don't know why. I don't say negative things to him. So I don't believe he gets negative things spoken to him at school. I think it's a very positive and loving environment. So I don't necessarily know where that stems from.
Yeah.
But I do try to interrupt it, and I know it's very upsetting and challenging for him when I do that. I was taught an affirmation by my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Ressler. I am unique. God made me great. I am a new creation.
I love
have
that.
said that every day since 5th grade.
I love that.
She also gave us a book called Go For It.
Nice.
Which is to your
Good for you, teach.
positive. Yeah, she was awesome.
That's awesome.
But he struggles to say that. Hard. He struggles hard to say that to himself. It's tough.
Yeah, we make decisions early on in life. We make decisions, and I invite you to consider that a belief is simply a decision.
Yeah.
Right? All of our beliefs are simply decisions. We make those decisions. Like, I believe Rush should dress differently than he does. You can interchange the words. I've decided that Rush should. I've decided it'd be better if Russ dressed differently than he does. I believe in God. I've decided that there is a God. I believe that our government is doing incredible things. I've decided our government is doing incredible things. These words are interchangeable. And so when you begin to get that on a deep level, then you can look at our children and say, oh my gosh, something occurred where they made a decision about themselves.
Yeah.
I decided I'm not good enough. Is the same thing as I just don't believe I'm good enough.
Right.
I made a decision at some point. I believe I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too gay, I'm too this. I decided I am that. So there's no good, bad, right, or wrong decisions. There are simply decisions, and then we can make them work for our lives. So the great thing about decisions is we can make another one. I mean, obviously we have to help foster that, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's all about the power of decision making, making powerful decisions.
Yes.
One of the things I see, I have grandsons now, 6 and 2. Screen time. That's one of the things I see a lot. And there's so much information hitting people, including little ones, from so many directions. It has to be confusing.
Oh, so confusing.
And I was gonna ask you guys have Maui, where I'm going next week to Alaska, getting dropped off on a seaplane, surrounded by black bears. Going to do some black bear hunting solo, rainforest. The weather's going to be horrible.
Is this your magical place?
Yeah, or I go to the Rocky Mountains and I go deep as I can. You know, as cold as I can, as much snow as I can in the fall when I'm doing mule deer. But I like to do it solo. So it's funny that you say language is everything. But I find that place where there's just no cell service.
Yeah.
Just me. And I'm challenged aggressively. Like death is next door.
Yeah.
If I make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like I twisted a leg
So you're just talking to the words are all in your head.
Yeah, and to your point about what you said, the voices calm down. Same thing with me. Like it's just different. And I went to Maui this last fall and saw a friend of mine and saw all the fire that happened and the devastation and learned a lot about that and had a great time. But it doesn't do it for me. Like, it's beautiful, of course. But what I find the serenity that I'm looking for, I came across after 20 years of hunting with other people. It took 20 years for me to figure out that I really, and I love that too. I mean, this year my wife's going with me the first time to a place that I go where we fly into the backcountry in the Rocky Mountains, Idaho, and drop us off and say, see you later. She's going with me for a week this time.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an experience.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that a little bit, because if that's something that you've been doing that's kind of soul nourishing by yourself.
Well, the second week I'm going to be alone.
Okay.
The first week she's going to, and I'm looking forward to that too. We both are.
Yeah.
But I just find it like, that's why I was trying to make the point earlier about Maui and the work that has to be put in to figure out how to get to that place is work. It's enjoyable work, but it's work nonetheless. There's no instant gratification with this stuff. There's no answer that I know about for anybody. That's just, it's that. It's just a journey of getting on a different path.
Yeah.
Towards that thing you're working on, enlightenment of some kind at the end.
Yeah, less resistance, right?
Well, you know Stephen Pressfield, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he talks a lot about resistance in his book. Have you? What was
it's
the
War of Art.
Yeah, the War of Art. So the irony in that book, this is a great example, because he mentions Lake Chelan in his book.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and he talks about it when he was a kid, and he was trying to be an artist, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So he's trying to be an artist. And he's going around making some money. And back in the day, the migrant workers were really hobos, which traveled the rails. And a lot of them lived in Seattle and Skid Row. And they would come over. Most of those guys were out of the war, Korea usually. And they're PTSD ridden, but drunks, winos. That was who picked most of the apples around here. And he worked in a field picking romes. In the book, it talks about this. And one of the lessons that he had about resistance, where he looks at resistance as a thing, as a noun, like a force, like in Star Wars, the force be with you. He looks at resistance of your mind as a noun, right? It's like a person, place or thing. He said he had this guy, he's a young man. He's picking maybe 2 bins of romes, and they have very fat stems, and they're very difficult to pick. It's very cold, and it's very hard on your hands, cuts you up. Back when romes were a thing, a variety of apple, right? So in this conversation he's having, Fletcher, Tara, he says to this older guy that has been on this, drunk, wino, he's picking 8 to 10 bins a day, 12 bins a day. And this guy's getting 2, Stephen Pressfield, the author, world-renowned author. Finally, he couldn't handle it anymore. He goes, I just don't know what the heck's... what is it about this old guy that can do this? And so he finally goes, I had to ask him, he goes, how do you pick 10, 12 bins of Rome's a day? I'm picking 2 or 3. The guy just looked over at him, he goes, painfully. It was very simple. He hadn't thought about that. Like sometimes things, to accomplish things, your own mind is preventing you from entering that layer.
Right.
And that's the art of resistance and understanding it. So, if you haven't read that book.
Oh, I love it. I have it on my bookshelf. I definitely refer to it once in a while.
And I just love that it was Lake Chelan was in the...
Yeah, I missed that one somehow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to look it up.
I love that.
So where's Fletcher go from here?
So
what's on the agenda for your business and your life?
Yeah, I'm shifting more to speaking and workshops. I'll always do coaching, one-on-one coaching. I love that. But I want to get my message out to a wider audience. So that's what I'm really focusing on these days. Also, I've written a children's book. It's being illustrated right now by an artist up in Vancouver, BC. That will be coming out in September, I believe, and I'm really excited about this book. I love the first book that I wrote. Never thought I'd write that one, and certainly never thought I'd write a second book, but it just came to me really quickly one time, and it's about my favorite topic in the world. I'm excited to publish it. So,
well, you told me writing a book's easy.
I did.
Tell me what it's like to write a book.
Humbling.
Exactly.
Very humbling.
So then that means you first have to be vulnerable? Because I
You have
feel
to
like
be
earlier
very
you said...
vulnerable.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be open to injury. Yes. You have to be open to feedback. You have to be open to rewrites and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites, and then another rewrite.
Yeah, the practice of feeling good.
Yeah, the practice of feeling good. How to upgrade your mind and create a feel-good life.
When I I've had a lot of agents too that tried coaching and they shut it down. Mm-hmm. When you get this book from Amazon, The Practice of Feeling Good, and you start to read it.
Our local bookstore.
If you got it, yeah.
We have one.
Cool. That'd be great. Go there. Or Target. I don't give a shit where you buy it. Here's the thing. I want the people, when they're reading the book, that's the main point. I do care. I want the people to buy local. I'm just kidding.
We know.
But mainly get it somehow, and then go in with that open mind.
Yeah.
Because it does no good to read The War of Art or The Practice of Feeling Good or any other book if you already know the conclusion before you open it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A way of being is open. Yeah. A way of being is willing. And our ways of being determine our destiny. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're closed off, your destiny, it's sealed.
Let me ask you this. We've talked a lot about this, but let's say I buy this book.
Yeah.
And I start to read your book, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
That hocus pocus stuff." My God. The hard part in my real estate game, the spouse will say, "Why don't you get a real job? This commission stuff, it's not working for you. Where's the money? You haven't made a deal in like 2 months." Mm-hmm. I'm going to protect you as the person that loves you, and I'm going to tell you to go get a job that pays you for time.
Yeah.
It's not about me. I want to help you not be hurt. What do you say to those people that are experiencing that, whether it's I want to lose weight, I want to travel more, I want to read more books, I want to spend more time with my children, but the partner in their life is not a bad person, maybe, but unintentionally hampering
Putting the kibosh
on that growth.
Yeah.
What do you say to those persons? What would you say in the beginning?
Yeah, what I would say is, it sounds like you have a real concern here. Help me understand what the concern is. What's your concern? What's your concern, babe?
Yeah.
Is it, and help them get to their actual concern, because what's driving them is what?
Fear.
A fear.
That old false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
FEAR.
So let's take a look at it. Maybe their fear is justified. Maybe it's not. But let's talk about what your actual concern is. Or maybe it's greed. Like maybe we're just like, no, we just need more money. I want to buy a Rolls Royce. Okay. Well, let's get curious. Just get curious about what the concern is.
Yeah.
Or is it actually? Or actually, are we doing okay? Are we just getting caught up in keeping up with the Joneses or whatever it is? Like,
well, more now than ever, right? You're comparing your insides to the social media filtered outside of other people.
Yeah.
Do you see that a lot? Where you're
Oh yeah, for sure.
This instinctual judgment, like, well, that guy has a better car, a nicer looking spouse,
or
happier, because they're only seeing their highlighted, filtered moments of life, not the pain.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Because I fall into that just as easily as anybody else. But what I want people to hear is this. It's not you falling into it. It's your programming falling into it. You are not your programming. Okay?
Youch.
Your programming influences the results in your life for sure. And most of us walk around thinking that we are our programming. But you don't, when you see those images in your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed or whatever, your brain automatically creates those thoughts
A black
without your
or
permission, consent, or
whatever.
approval. It never says, "Hey Tara, what do you want to think and feel about this image that you're seeing?" Your brain never does that. Why? Because it has programming, a set mind. It's a set mind already. It has set attitudes, decisions, and attitudes, beliefs, decisions about that thing that it's seeing. So it doesn't even ask you what you want to think, how you want to feel. It doesn't ask for any input. It has a set mind. It says, oh, when we see this image, we automatically think these thoughts. You are not needed for your life most of the time.
Question then.
Yeah.
You hear different ideas and theories about this, but is there a generalized or average time frame for creating the new habit? Is it 100 times of pattern interrupting? Is it a month? Is it a year? I mean,
Yeah, good question. So a lot of people say, like 21 days of making. I don't believe that.
yeah, right.
I don't believe it. So I believe, so my curriculum, I have, it's about a 9-month curriculum and 3 separate chunks. And we meet really regularly. Why? Because we're doing something radical. Remember, radical is a departure from the norm, a departure from what's usual. So, and the radical thing that we're doing is we're setting up new neural pathways
Yeah.
that don't currently exist, by the way.
Right.
Okay? So if your brain has a particular program,
This is my response.
yes, right?
This happens. This is how I respond.
Right. Now, a lot of people say, well, God, I really just want to change that program. You're not going to change this program. This program is set. It's a set mind about finances, about whatever, okay? So you're not going to change that. A lot of people say, well, I just need to change this. That is never going to change. It is like an application on your phone.
It's true. It's wild.
You can't even delete it. Your brain, anytime you think about finances, it will trigger this particular program. Only has one option. So why do we take 9 months? What are we doing in 9 months? In 9 months, we're doing something radical. We're giving the brain a second option. We're creating.
Oh, that makes more sense.
We're creating a new program.
That feels totally different.
Yes. Now, so we're not even going to be paying attention to this.
We're going over here.
We're putting all of our focus
So this
over
is
here.
the new neural pathway.
Exactly. And it has to be practice. That's why it's called the practice of feeling good. When I say good, I mean feeling connected, feeling eager, feeling enthusiastic, feeling
Loving
open,
ourselves.
willing, kind, right? Generous, inclusive, all those things. So when we create a new circuit, some new circuitry over here, a new program, now the brain actually has an option.
Yeah.
Do I run this program or this program?
Right.
Well, gosh, it looks like Tara's been spending a lot of focus running this program lately. So it's easier for it to begin doing that, and that's when people see breakthrough results.
Got you.
You know, one of the things I was talking about this hallucinogens and the work they're doing with addiction and PTSD. A lot of what they're discovering in the neuroscience is, like somebody says, I got stuck in a rut. When the older you get, you're like, this is my way.
Yeah.
This is how I do things. You know, this is not how you do it.
Yes.
You know? Well, that's that neurotransmittal from the back of your brain to the front of your brain, and it creates a trench. Is how they describe
Yeah.
it. And that trench is so deep for most people, they can't get out of that's like, that's how
Exactly.
I do it, right? And then the ibogaine
The
puts
who's a what?
ibogaine is like a drug, like a hallucinogen or an ayahuasca or a DMT.
Okay, I got you.
The whole mushrooms under clinical, under clinical programs, right? What they're discovering is if they do it right, they put the drug in and it basically stops that transmittal from hitting that rut, so it has to find a new way.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the same concept of work, like spiritual work or the words that we're using to get us to go, haha. That's so different. Like you just said, well, this just sounds easier. And our instinct is to find the easy way. And yet,
that's a path of least resistance.
And
right?
sometimes it's the opposite, where this is the comfort zone and the magic's over here. And that's not going to happen naturally without some help.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of addicts can't stop without some help. You know what I was going to also say, to your immense credit as a human, you're accomplishing some incredible things and have accomplished incredible things. You're also speaking large engagements, and you know what you did for me? He goes, I said, hey Fletcher, I got totally out of shape, man. I just stopped working out, started eating pizza. So this like 2 weeks ago, I gained like 20 pounds. He was like, tell you what, you can call me, let me be your accountability partner. I'll get your ass to the gym again. I know you'll drop 20 in a month. And so the fact that you were willing to do that, and you call me anytime, and I know that you do that for everyone in your life, that abundant mindset that I have time to do that, even though most of us would look at your schedule and go, I don't know if he has a lot of time, but you find time, and that's who you are. And I wanted to say that there's these things that we've had over the years as friends, and I consider you a very good friend, that those chunks resonate with people. Like for me, they resonate because I'll feel like, I don't have a lot of time. But Fletcher had time. So it's amazing how little tiny things, and that's what I would encourage people to try not to believe there's one answer.
Yeah, get curious. Is there another answer? And what he's referring to specifically is this belief about time, because most of us have a scarcity belief system around time. Like there's never enough time. I mean, how many times we hear that? God, there's not enough time. Not enough time.
Or I don't have time today.
Right. Contrast that with a new belief system. Be open to this idea that there's always enough time for the things that are important to me. Just that's going to be my response when you ask me about time. Do you have time? Well, there's always enough time for the things that are important to me. Period.
Yeah.
Right?
When you were saying that, what popped in my head was someone in my life that I know is like that, and that's Kyle Plew. And Kyle Plew is a pastor. And you thought about being a pastor. So then I started thinking, and it's funny to me also how many things you can think in like a couple seconds while I'm hearing you talk. That kind of blows my mind sometimes. But all of the things that Russ was listing, and all of the things you've shared that you've done in your life, even the kind of, hoodlum days. Yeah. It just seems like you're still all those things, right? And they've all kind of gelled and morphed and are a part of what you're doing now, just in kind of a more focused or passionate or, I don't know.
It's almost like educated and wise are different things.
It's not like you went to do that and you quit, and then you went to do this and you stopped, and then you went to. Yeah. No, they all seem like.
They were all experiences that that contributed to the richness of my life.
Yeah.
And ultimately brought me to my level of wisdom. We all have levels of wisdom, right? I'm not saying mine's greater or less than anyone. I'm not, but wisdom. The way I define wisdom is simply, wisdom is knowing which body of knowledge to apply and when and where to apply it. That's wisdom. And how do we get to the understanding of what body of knowledge to apply and when to apply it? From our past experience. So I have a vast experience, and it provided a lot of contrast.
Yes.
And fortunately, I was open to learning from it. Finally, at some point, I was open to learning from it.
Well, I'm excited for your next journey. I know you're going to, continue to accelerate
and evolve
in whatever level you want to.
Thank you.
And I don't think it's something you can predict either. I know that's half battle is realizing that life is pretty unpredictable. It's going to throw life at you sometimes.
Yeah.
Life's going to hit you, whether you like it or not.
And that brings us back to the practice of like,
We're all
can
mortal.
I be okay with how life is unfolding today?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and you can just look, whoever, I can encourage you to do this. Look at whoever you think has it all figured out, and then I guarantee if you crawl inside them, they don't. They are longing for something
I have a
instinctually.
question for
right?
you.
Yeah.
How do you personally deal with unwelcome change?
Unwelcome change? That's a great one. So I have 2 or 3 steps to this. Number one, I go, oh, that was not what I was expecting. And I notice that my body's having an emotional reaction to it.
Yes.
I literally will say this to myself. Oh, there goes my body having an emotional reaction. It's important that I separate myself and interrupt myself by acknowledging that I am not my body.
Before becoming it.
Yeah. Before mistaking myself for that. Oh, there goes my body having an emotional reaction. Ooh, my heart's racing. Oh, I'm starting to perspire. I'm noticing.
Feeling angry
Yeah,
or
yeah,
hurt
I'm feeling anxious
or upset.
yes. So I noticed that, like, oh, there was my body having an emotional reaction. Oh, and then I'll go to step 2. What's the opportunity here? Because one of the most exciting things. For me,
Ew, really? That's step 2?
yes.
That didn't feel good when you said that.
Okay.
Pattern interrupt. Scary.
Okay.
So, because
All right.
I'm realizing, like, I'm having my body's having a reaction, and I'm not my body. And I'm getting curious, like, oh, well, why is it having that? Oh, because I had an expectation it wasn't met, or oh,
I wanted this and that's not going to happen.
Right.
Or I didn't want that. Why is it happening?
right, or there was a miscommunication, or whatever it was, right? Something didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. So, step 2 is like, well, what's the opportunity here? Because what do I really want in life? I want to practice feeling good in any situation. I want to feel good in any situation. I want to feel good more and more and more in my life. Remember, good doesn't just mean happy. In fact, I rarely use the word happy. And so
it's a feeling.
And
Happy's
so I
a feeling.
say, oh, well, this is the opportunity to practice. This is literally the opportunity to practice.
Yeah, it's wild.
This is.
I remember. Do you remember
Okay,
they called you
wait,
from my?
what's step 3?
I mean, one second. I'm going to share something.
Okay.
with you before you get there.
Okay.
I know what he's going to. But I had this.
okay.
I had this actually happen to me. What I wanted to say is, you can recognize this emotion many times,
Yeah.
and go separate yourself from the emotion. Go, oh, okay. What's weird is you do it, let's say 80 times, hypothetically. You recognize your emotion, you're doing fine, and then something happens. And I remember calling you one day. I was outside. I was viscerally angry.
Oh, I remember.
I was like, what in the F? These people.
Like you want to punch a wall.
Like I was going to like.
Yes, I do remember that.
And I remember going, what is happening to me?
This is not what I'm practicing.
What? Who's this guy? Like because it was about appreciation.
Where
It was
did
about
he come
respect.
from?
It was about, my expectations of
Yeah.
an outcome that I had said, you owe me.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. I don't keep score, but you owe me.
Those are deep
So
feelings.
these were like, and I was at Mach 6, and Fletcher had this talk with me, and I'm literally about ready to do some things that are not good, and that's my old pattern. like there's some things that are about to be said and done that are
Okay,
not
so
healthy.
step 2.5 is call Fletcher.
Call Fletcher, and he'll answer.
Okay. Step
And-
3.
And step 3, you ask yourself this: what way of being is required right now for me to turn this situation around?
I mean, these are simple words you're speaking, and they feel really icky to me.
You better sign up.
They
do.
It's challenging
They
because
feel like tar.
because notice that I didn't say step 3 is not what do I do.
Yeah.
Most people are going to race to like, well, just do this, or what should I do? No. It's how do I want to be?
It's a being, not a doing.
Because our ways of being always determine our actions.
Oh. Yes.
Right?
Because you weren't being
So
the Rush you wanted to be.
No, I fell back into how do you handle certain people.
Yeah.
The way my
became
my
a
dad was
cowboy
a
again.
beautiful man, but he handled certain people
Yeah.
pretty aggressive
You
way
became
in
a
his
cowboy.
era. I don't think he would be like that necessarily now, but that's how men operated.
Yeah.
That was a programming. What this guy violates this code, this is the consequence this person's going to face.
Yeah.
And I remember this. I mean, talk about programming. I'd go up to the school, get in a little fight in the 5th, 6th grade, or fight a bully. You know, my dad would come up like, "What's the problem?" "Well, your son hit that kid in the face." "Why?" "Well, he was picking on Sally, and Russ just went up to him and hit him." And I don't see a problem with this. Like, why is my kid in trouble? You know, so there was a time in programming where if you saw somebody being vulnerable or being picked on or being bullied, you didn't stop.
Yeah, you stood up for him.
You didn't stand up for them, you're going to have a problem with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty enriching programming.
Yeah.
And so when you're judging other people, you don't know their programming. And that empathy word, that like non-judgmental word, it's so hard to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But it is all about that program.
Yeah.
All about it.
I mean, my brain's going to be messed up all day today. you
Go
know?
get the book at the local bookstore.
I am going to be, I'm going to be swirling all around
I'll make
today.
you feel even better. Fletcher, since I got you, tell me about myself when you met me. Tell me about myself now. And tell me what we've learned together.
Oh gosh, we've learned a lot. I think we've always been on a path of personal evolution. You know, you and I value evolving, not just learning, not just acquiring knowledge, but the application of and producing results that require us to get out of our comfort zone. Because we both value progress. Everybody wants progress, right? So what I see is fun I've often reflected on this, like when we started working together, you and I both have continued to make progress in this area called personal development. And I don't mean like, I'm not trying to like say we're something great because of it. It just makes life really interesting. And, you know, I've always said that you're a visionary. That's one of your ways of being is a visionary, right? And I feel like the more you get into personal development, the more you're capable of doing in that area of being a visionary.
Yeah, and these are true things for almost every person, if not every person.
It is. And the difference for you is you have this willingness to apply.
Go for it.
You apply knowledge. And it doesn't mean you're not afraid, but what it means is you take action in the face of fear or uncertainty, which is called courage, being courageous, right?
Yeah, that's a profound statement about fear and courage.
Yeah.
You can have fear without courage.
You cannot have courage. You cannot be courageous without having fear.
Yeah. So when you feel fear, if someone admires if you admire courage in your own being, and you're afraid, realize that courage is on the horizon.
Yeah.
And the only way to achieve a courageous moment in your life as a human is to go through the fear and feel the fear. So that's that. Oh, this is what I do now.
Exactly.
Not what my programming tells me to do. I am recognizing I'm afraid.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about life and death stuff. I'm talking about I'm going to public speak and I gotta, holy crap, I gotta do this. Like, okay, well, I like being courageous, right?
Yeah.
Or like when my wife's a yoga instructor, right? So I go to a hot yoga class, not as much lately, gotta change that. I don't really like it in the middle of it. So when it's 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go to a class that she's teaching. I have to think about the outcome. How am I going to feel when I'm done? Because my brain will tell me, just stay in bed. That 107 degrees, 40% humidity.
Yeah.
You're fine. You'll be all right. You just wait till tomorrow. Which, you know, that getting off the workout train is pretty easy to do.
Yeah, it is.
And getting back on, it's pretty hard to do.
Yes, it's
but
true.
it's all right here, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, let me just throw one more thing in there because of what you just said there. That is a great reminder. Or two things actually. One, so back up, you know, a few minutes ago, you said like that 3-step process. When he says like I'm feeling fearful. Step one, oh, my body's having a fearful
feeling.
reaction. Oh, I recognize that my body is experiencing fear. Oh, what's going on? So we get curious about it, right? And then eventually, like, how do I deal with it? We're not looking towards the action. What's my way of being? What's the opportunity here? How do I want to be? Oh, I want to be courageous, right? And what's at the heart of courage is simply a story. And what's at the core of fear is simply a story. But they're two completely different stories. So which one wins out? The one that you give your focus to, the one that you give your attention to. So he's going to focus on the courageous story. But the thing I also wanted to say was getting up early to go to the yoga. This is an example of a person stepping into empowerment. And we experience empowerment when we make a commitment and then we take responsibility for the commitment. The only time we ever feel empowered is when we take responsibility for our commitments. So you make a commitment. Yes, I'm going to go to that class in the morning at 5:30 a.m. 5 o'clock rolls around, or 4:45. Don't want to go. But I'm taking responsibility for the commitment I made.
And the alternative is you feel
Not
like
taking
shit.
responsibility.
You feel like shit later because you let yourself down.
Exactly. You feel disempowered. You feel without power. This is such an important message. If you want to experience more empowerment in your life, begin taking responsibility for the commitments you've made, and or begin making commitments, period, for which you can take responsibility, because most people are practiced at not making commitments.
Like my wife, you know how she got me into yoga to begin with?
No.
Yes, I do.
I was going to ask you, oh, never mind. You won't do it. I go,
She
what?
challenged him.
You won't go.
She drew the line in the sand.
I was going to go to yoga
Yeah,
class today. And then so I went to 200 days in a row.
What?
Right out of the gates.
Are you serious?
And then I was like, I started feeling,
Wow.
talk about a practice of feeling good, because you start having breakthroughs in your mind and your body and the connection. And then also, like, why is my right side so stiff and my left? I didn't even know that. Like, why can I? Like, there's
That's so
your,
cool.
Your body.
Yeah.
So
I did not know that.
So there's never been a yoga class that I've been in with any instructor that I didn't feel awesome when I was done. Yet I still don't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a thing? That's a thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so
I have another
thousands of
question for
classes.
you.
Don't
Okay.
want to go.
What has living in a small town felt like it? Living in a small town, how should I phrase this? How have you felt that it has helped or hindered?
Yeah, it has not hindered me. It's only helped me. So one of the great things about living in a small town is you know so many people, you can feel a high level of support. And one of the unfortunate things about living in a small town is that because you know so many people and they know about you intimately, it can also feel really vulnerable and or isolating.
Agreed.
Right. So when I went through my divorce.
Like, don't mess up.
Yeah, when I went through my
Don't
divorce.
misstep.
Everybody seemed to think they knew what was going on, the details of my marriage and my divorce, right?
I've known historically. I've known all kinds of things.
Right, yeah.
You know.
And so I remember actually one day I was walking and there was somebody who had been very nice to me up for forever. They saw me coming and they literally crossed the street because they had made their decisions about me,
yes.
right? And I'm not even judging them. I'm just saying like
But this happens.
That happens
to
in a
us.
small town,
This
right?
happens
That can
to
happen,
us in a
yeah.
small town. Correct.
And then since then, that person and I are totally fine, right? I mean, we have stories that we get attached to, and then hopefully more life occurs, and you realize like, oh, I was being kind of a judgmental SOB, right? Or like, oh God, I went through a divorce too, or right.
Yes.
Well, that's the of you part. I know
Yes.
of your marriage. I know
Yes.
of your life.
Yeah, good clarification.
And that's what this podcast is about, trying to get to know Fletcher, not of Fletcher.
Yeah.
And because they've had a perfect marriage and a perfect life.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's easy to throw stones. My dad said one of the most powerful things he ever told me growing up is you'll never have arrows in your ass if you're not in the lead. And not getting divorced is not what I mean, but being courageous is.
Yeah.
And expect to be judged.
Yeah.
Because the tip of the spear in anything, and even in your own household, you're going to have that judgment. And that's not because they hate you.
Right.
You're married to them, or they're your kid or your dad or whatever.
Yeah.
It's coming from often a place of love. And then when that happens to me, which happens a lot, I just go, oh, well, they really most of the time do love.
Absolutely.
It's coming from a caring place, and it's just disguised as whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, living in a small town, I have so much respect for business owners. You know, I mean, you get to just, these people are putting themselves out there. You know, they are putting so much on the line. They are working so hard to create something from nothing. And so living in a small town, you get to see that up and close and personal.
You know, I had this person I sold to
Yes.
from Seattle that retired here, a couple, and she was super, super sweet. And she goes, oh, I love this. I've been coming to this place. I've been dreaming about moving here. And she goes, then she talked to me later. She goes, I don't know if I can stay here. I don't know why these people are talking about me. I didn't do anything. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I didn't do anything. I go, that doesn't matter. Like, this is just like the way it is. This is the telegraph game. By the time you're hearing it,
Yeah.
you got the white elephant flying out, over the popsicle. It has nothing to do with reality.
Right.
And she ended up moving. It was so traumatic because she came from a place of anonymity in a city.
Ooh, so this hits me.
Where you don't
deep in the
walk
bone.
into Safeway and know there's John. I joke around, Fletcher. I say it on this podcast all the time of people. I have people who wouldn't list their orchard with me because I brought their daughter home late in 1986. I get it. I'm that kid still.
Yeah.
I'm that guy that didn't bring him home, and then it's the programming. My dad is a beautiful man, right? One time he looks at me and he goes, I don't really like that guy. He was 80. He died at 86, right? 82, he had a stroke. But at 80, he goes, I don't really like that guy. Never have. That guy's like 90. Like, that doesn't sound like you. Like, what are you talking about? Because he was a very generous man, very loving man, very selfless, the most selfless people my mom and dad have ever met.
Yeah.
To this day. And I go, what did he do? Well, he looked at your mom in that way. Mom's like 75. Like, what are you talking about? I go, when was this? He goes, 1956 at the swimming hole. I go, good thing we're not holding a grudge. Geez, Dad, that's pretty aggressive.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But there were certain boundaries.
Yeah.
That was one of the, like, you could do a lot of things, but he never forgot that look. It wasn't even a thing. It was just a look.
Yeah.
And I just found that, again, when I do me, I see as the older you get, you start to, if you open up your mind and you start to let these things in, which is in perpetuity, forever you can do this and never stop growing and never stop making mistakes too. I mean, that's the other thing. It's always 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and confusion. And that's the thing about growth that you're finding maybe that is initially uncomfortable, because it's always uncomfortable. Growth is always uncomfortable.
Always.
It's like there's no like, oh, this is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, if it was easy and felt good, we'd be doing it all the time.
Yeah, and that's not where the fun, that's not where the enrichment in life comes from. That pleasure is, talk about that for a minute, in seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. I think that's another amazing topic.
That influences every single one of our decisions.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a single decision we make during the day that is not influenced by, will this bring me pleasure or pain? And we do, as humans, we do more to avoid pain than we do to gain pleasure, which is what keeps us playing a small game in life, right? So the opportunity then, right? The opportunity is to, when we answer that question, am I trying to avoid pain? Ooh, let me get curious about that.
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
I'm seeking pleasure. I just have to go for an hour and I'm good. I'm going to have more pleasure.
Did you ever think or entertain the thought that being in a small town would limit you?
I didn't. I did not.
Like with what you wanted to do?
I don't know why. I think that was just because of my entrepreneurial spirit. I just felt because we all hear people like, oh my gosh, if we could find a way to make a living here, we would move here, right?
Yes.
We've heard so many people say that. Yeah.
Now they're Starlink.
Yeah, now they're Starlink. Yeah, now I can do it.
Welcome.
But I just like, well, we'll make it work. right? We'll just make it work. And if that doesn't work, then we'll make something else work. And if that doesn't, then we'll just, I mean, that's just been the story of my life.
Yeah. Well, this is a fabulous conversation,
Yes.
man. We've been talking 90 minutes or so as usual. And I would just encourage people, I don't know if you're still taking clients, but
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, and if nothing else, just have a cup of coffee with you, and you might find the I call it the arrogant presumption in all of us, that judgment in all of us. If nothing else, I challenge people to seek what you don't know instead of believing what you do know.
Yeah.
And that might mean I don't like Fletcher. I don't believe in that hocus pocus crap. This set my mindset mumbo jumbo. Like that thought right there is when you call them. That's when things begin to change. And it doesn't mean you coach them forever. It's just anything like that. It could be a book. It could be a smell. It could be a flower. It could be anything. And I think that entrepreneur spirit or that willingness to go to the next level in life, whatever that is for you. And contentment's great too. I mean, that's the fun part about this. You can be content and still be in a growth mindset.
Absolutely.
And I think that's often mistaken.
Yes.
They think it's one or the other.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm happy. I don't need to. What are you talking about? I'm retired. I'm retiring in a year. What are you talking about? I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about growth. Like we get born and we die. Like somewhere in between, you know, what is that? It's like there's two dates that matter and a dash in the middle. Make the most of the dash.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Keep growing all the way.
So thank you for being you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to you guys
For being so
for this
open
show and facilitating great conversation, and for being awesome people in our business world here in Small Town. I mean, this is so important.
There you go, power of the people.
That's right.
Thank
Small Town
you
America.
very much.
Signing off. Thanks again.